the International CyberSecurity Congress, we start this session, Disruptive Technologies. We invite to the stage Clemens Dannenheim to speak about impacts of vehicular mobility transition on cybersecurity.
So, thank you very much. Спасибо большое. Я тоже немного...
I can speak Russian a little bit, but that's not sufficient.
Извините, пожалуйста.
So I have to apologize. So I have to speak English now. Thank you.
Yeah, my background, I'm a computer scientist, and you know, I was driving my own company for 20 years, and a year ago the company was merged into Luxoft. Luxoft is a company with Russian roots, so I'm welcome, I think, back in into my community here with a reference to Eastern Europe. So the company, you know, my old company was working on automotive the last 10 years only. We are based in Munich. And Munich means, you might guess, what kind of customer is our primary customer. It's BMW. And but through the merger with Luxoft in the last year, we have much more traction now at the market. We are working for Daimler, for Volkswagen, for Audi, and even abroad with Ford and other companies worldwide. And that's the reason, you know, why we are very proud now to at least extend our activities regarding automotive and the impacts on security worldwide. Today, I'd like to talk with you, to talk a little bit about, you know, the future assisted mobility. Everybody heard about ADAS functions, autonomous drive, car sharing, you know, and for these particular issues, it's necessary to have connectivity implemented on vehicular networks and telematics, because I think in the past, we had isolated cars. There was no connectivity, more or less no computers on board, but this is going to change. We are talking about cybersecurity, because if cars are getting connected, it means they have to be protected, because connectivity enables, I think, attack vectors. Another concept I'd like to talk about is teleoperation, how to teleoperate cars, how to teleoperate mobility. I'd like quickly to strive the scenario and the proof of concept of infrastructure-based driving under the concept of mobility as a service. For sure, also talking about sharing economy, and then probably, if time is sufficient, you know, to talk about validation, except or beside, you know, the security, also to talk about safety, operational safety for mobility systems, and probably new business models. So Luxoft, I think I talked about it, you know, it comprises of 3 pillars. You know, it's financial services, digital enterprise, and automotive. Automotive, it's my business, and I'm responsible for business development in this segment. Automotive at Luxoft means worldwide engagement, and headquarters is in Switzerland, in Zug. And let's talk about our new mobility concepts. When I was coming and flying in yesterday, I got from Christina, my assistant. Fortunately, she gave me a nice ride through the city. She talked with me about new concepts also happening here in Moscow or in Russia. I think car sharing is now very popular because space is limited. There is a lot of traffic jam in the condensed times, twice the day, in the morning and the evening, and so we have really to invent, I think, something else than private driving each day on our own car. So the mobility revolution starts now, and what we have to see here, you know, it tackles our personal lifestyle. So we would like to drive on demand to our company, to do work or to do shopping or to do some private things. We have to think about the trend tendencies in changing energy technologies in direction of electrification. We can see here, as I said before, the sharing economy, and for sure the autonomy, the autonomous drive. Maybe in 5, in 10 years, we can just order through a nice app, instead of Yandex or Uber or whatever, there is an automated car standing in front of our door, automatically opening, and we will use and utilize the car to drive from A to B. The industry is affected in a certain extent. We say in Germany, for example, at BMW, if you are entering their production plant, the first step you are entering their so-called press facilities, where they are producing the car. They produce parts of the car, the metal parts, and I think this is all mechanical engineering, and we are walking away from mechanical engineering within the automotive industry to electronic and computational technology. The digitalization also affects them in their customer relationship management. And look at sharing economy. BMW, for example, recently invented a new brand. It's Share Now. It's now combining Car2Go, Drive Now, car sharing, Reach Now from US, My Taxi, and so on. So this is an evidence for changes already recognizable now. On the other hand, companies like LG, well known for production of nice televisions and so on, they are producing now WebOS for auto. So we are moving towards the direction to create standardized products so that the OEMs, they don't have to purchase and to develop their own operating systems for their vehicles. So it gets them out of the day-to-day work, and they can just buy and purchase products. Here we have to think about security as well. Another example is at Daimler, for example, the MBUX. Daimler-Benz dashboard looks like this here. You can already buy it. It's a Daimler A-Class, a full software-made UI. If we come to autonomous assisted driving, I'd like quickly to summarize what is necessary. We need, in order to enable a car for autonomous driving, we need a very high precise positioning. We need an environmental modeling so that the vehicle always knows where it is in the moment. So SLAM technology out of the robotics. We have prediction and decision, to plan the path the car has to drive, the so-called trajectory planning, and the HD map. So since we are in the future connected, all those elements, they create a certain degree of security problems, and we will talk about it later. Before we go to the market using autonomous driven car, we have to collect millions and billions of driving miles. So here we have a cloud system, and all the data, collected during drive and the ride, will be pushed back into a database systems for further analytics to identify ground truths, and to make decisions and so on by means of AI and ML. Again, here, if I think security is not seen as a key element, again here we will allow attackers, to influence principles of our autonomy. One example, I need a since it starts. how such an autonomous car can be illustrated by a nice video. Here you can see the so-called high precision digital map. The car needs to do all this on basis of the map. You know, we have a GPS or GNSS-based positioning. We have an environmental perception on 12 sensors. You know, sensor types are lasers, cameras, and radar. And all those different inputs are fused through the so-called environmental model to environmental perception. And you can see here the surrounding blocks. It's the computer illustration of what the computer sees. And again, here in the trunk, you can see the logical components: environmental perception, localization, driving strategy, and the so-called control of the car to continue and to drive the car on the road. And this is the illustration on a highway, and I identified here through these beams. You can see the connected. So if there are accidents, obstacles on the road, and other findings, they are at least exchanged with a cloud service. And again, here in this particular case, if we make the car open, we have to care about security. Yeah, this is a model about environmental model, how a car recognizes his environment, front view, rear view, right and left view. And here at this illustration, you can see, you know, what the car recognizes in terms of the boundaries of the road, you know, the preceding traffic, in terms of blocks. And the challenges here for the computational intelligence, for the autonomous driving functionality, is to use the different inputs from the sensors and to fuse it to one consistent output. And the red beam here is the driver view. This is also relevant for the autonomous driving safety because it's an indicator of the awareness of the driver. So if he is always looking somewhere else, you know, and for some reason he has to take over the driving task, he is recognized and supervised by the computer system, and the system can do some decisions on it. Connected mobility, as already said, you know, also the autonomous driving cars, they need to be connected. You know, we will be connected to cloud software. You know, we have influence on navigation, speed, speech steering, speech commands like Alexa or however, you know, and it means here, you know, we have again, connection to the cloud and a need, you know, to care about security. And in the connected mobility, you know, we have 3-4 pillars, you know, 5 pillars, you know, to deal with security in the telematic area, in the smart mobility, applications environment, in the platform environment, and cloud and data analytics environment. And here, we have the cybersecurity functionality embedded and across horizontal, you know, all the solutions here, the solution pillars, the functional pillars, we have to care about cybersecurity in a particular case. In the personal mobility arena, we have here rental cars. Rental cars are getting also partly ambivalent solution because in Germany we have the rental car company Sixt, and they are suddenly appearing as a car sharing provider. Yeah? So the question to me was, how are they making sure that, I think, security is taken seriously? Because if they are trying, you know, to engage with many, many different car types, they have to open the car, they have to find an API to the vehicle, and at least to bypass the car's security to open the car and to start the car and to drive the car. So here, again, a very, very important topic. Yeah, we have to have technology here like HSM, hardware security module, certificate management, and so on. Very important and very focal point here. So assets to share, cars with drivers, ride-sharing communities, infrastructure, city infrastructure is impacting us, and also the insurances. Later on, if there is some focus on new business models, also insurance companies are interested in getting out of microservices, out of the vehicles, data about the driver's behavior to offer better policies to their clients. And the same is true for banking environments. They are looking for payment services for new mobility. So security in the context of mobility, in a moment, we have, fortunately, I think the majority of problems coming out of our research environment, and the criminal is beyond it. But I expect in the future it will dramatically change. In a moment, the impacts are coming from remote keyless entry. Yeah, so there is a man-in-the-middle attack. Somebody has a relay and extends the connection between the car and the key. And in the future, I expect, it will all change more to the cloud and infotainment system and so on. But, we are in a collaboration with also worldwide well-known company, it's Trend Micro, and we are together with them working on connected car architecture and solution for security. And in this context, we have already in place technology for network anomaly detection. We have endpoint security for the ECUs within the car. And at the cloud side, we have enabled network security, components, cloud security, and also security operation. We had in the morning SOC. There is also a component available to this particular topic. And for the OEMs, it's also very helpful, to do their remote services and remote diagnostics. Teleoperation. Teleoperation now, you might ask, for what? I'd like to drive my car by myself, or I'd like to have an autonomous driving car. But there are some interim solutions. Let's assume, for example, here valet parking and car sharing. We have sold recently a version of our product for teleoperation of vehicles to China, and they are using it for car sharing purposes. In some cases, if a car sharing car is dropped at a non-very attractive area, it might be the car resides there for the next 12 hours and gets not back to business. And in this particular case, under 5G network technology, the vehicle can be relocated to a at least better position so that it can be better brought back into the business. For workshop, for roadworks, and even for logistics at airports, it's a very essential topic. We here made some use cases together with Vodafone in Germany. And here on the left-hand side, you can see, I think, our control center, the view out of the car, and the car operating at the deck of a park house. Here is a use case we did in Italy with the municipal of Torino. And this was their step forward for introducing autonomous driving and other technology to the Turin city, because Turin is also well known in Italy as a company hosting Fiat. It's their home location, and now we are with them on automation as well, active. Here you can see remote driving by means of VR glasses and VR technology. Mobility as a service, a few words. I talked about driving from A to B autonomously, but what happens if the car arrives at a park house or at an airport? Usually, I think the trouble starts. You have to look for a parking spot and so on, or you will drop your car at a valet parking point. Somebody picks your car up and drives it to the park house. In the future, the infrastructure will be responsible for sensing localization, and the car is accessible through an API and acts only as a robot, and the control will be done out of the cloud. We did such a use case together with BMW at one of their plants. At the end of the production line, we have installed within the infrastructure sensing technologies to localize the cars, and out of the cloud service, the steering command, the trajectory planning, and so on comes as a mobile connect command through the API directly into the car. Again, if such a functionality gets a standardization, and German OEMs are already in discussion about it, we need to care about security. Because if we open a car as using an API, I think there is for sure a high risk that somebody interferes and tries to take the car. And then a moving object, in this dimension, 2 tons of mass, is a weapon, and you can create a lot of damage. So the same can be applied for transportation technology. We are in discussion with German MAN, the truck production company, and the same for so-called logistics hubs. Our technology, again, rolled out at their logistic hub, and the driver arrives here at a queue, leaves the car, and has a break, and the rest, for relocation of the car to the ramp and later down to the outbound queue, automatically made. And again, we have to care about security. The same appears here. API to the car means we have to very, very carefully look at IT security. This was an example how it does work at the BMW plant. Sharing economy, I think I told you already in the beginning, I was positively affected in hearing that Moscow changes, and a lot of car sharing is now in place already, and it's even growing. And a last word to operational safety. I think if we talk about mobility in the future, in a moment we care about cybersecurity. So the car should be safe, the threat vectors should be blocked, and we should identify them. But we have also to care about functional safety. So if weather conditions change, if road conditions change, and so on, and we have worked out a nice model to combine both the cybersecurity and also the operational safety, and all together then as output creates a degree of reliability of a vehicle, of a transportation system. Different applications here, highway pilot, automated parking, or infrastructure driving, and so on. So, new business models in terms of network slicing. Recently, I was addressed by insurance companies, and since we changed, or myself, I changed my focus in my business 10 years ago on automotive and mobility only, I was initially surprised why insurance knocked at the door. It was Swiss Re Insurance Group, it was Zurich Insurance, and others. And they said, hey, look, we are affected by changing mobility. In terms of cars getting connected, what are the impacts in terms of cybersecurity? How can we judge what is the security and the level of danger? And what are the models we can provide to our clients, different kind of business models or insurance models to say, okay, if somebody drives an automated car, probably we will have less accidents because the machine is more reliable than a human being. And all those things are now, I think, topics for discussions for us with them to bring in our mobility knowledge, security knowledge we have gained in this particular environment into, I think, traditional business. Number one. Number two, banks were talking to us, let's share mobility with us because we would like to become a partner for payment services, for example, for highway maut or other things, park house management and so on. So another thing is, I talked to a network operator like Vodafone in Germany, and they asked, hey, what about, for example, teleoperation in a very particular context? Here it's teleoperation in the context of construction sites. So they provide a very particular network slice, and they guarantee a certain performance. They get for this performance assurance a certain quantity of money, and you know, they gain a new business model, providing particular network performance and quality for a certain money. But in all three applications I mentioned and business models, we have always to care about security, because if the security is somehow conflicted, I think we will run into a real serious problem. So I think I have left a couple of minutes for discussion. I think it's a wide range of engagement. I will be here today and tomorrow, and will be very, very pleased, you know, to have individual discussions with you. In particular, I'm glad to see a lot of young people influenced by and encouraged to come here to my speech, because I think really mobility changes our life totally. And I think in 10 years' time, hopefully we will remember today's discussion here, and we will hopefully have made much more progress than today. Because yesterday when I arrived here, I was just arriving in a traffic jam, and there was the old habit stopping me, but at least together we can address it. So, questions? Yes, please.
Thanks for a very interesting presentation. My question is, so talking about this automation of vehicles, can you give me your forecast, please? Do you think that it might be so that the automotive businesses or business related to automotive industry that are implementing digital solutions, for example, if I don't want, we can come to the point where I don't want to use automated cars. I would rather want to drive a traditional car myself. But the insurance company may tell me that I'm just a human being and my driving habits are dangerous to others. And as a result, I won't be able to buy a simple, nice 3-liter car that I would like to race and drive somewhere.
Can somebody summarize quickly? Because I'm ja mnoga govoriu, ja mnoga panemayu, очень mnoga. There are so much technical Slovars in, and I cannot understand them. Okay. Any other questions? Maybe from the young attendees here, you know? So I'm ready. No translator. I'm on 8. 8 is for English, yeah?
That's right.
That's right. But somebody needs to translate, otherwise I cannot answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Мой вопрос был.
So the question is, when you have driverless vehicles and this thing and the other, will we possibly end up in a situation when people can no longer drive in the old-fashioned, and this will be a discrimination against those drivers who want to drive old-fashioned cars? The cars that they've been driving all along. Maybe an insurance company would tell them that they would have to pay higher premium and this thing and the other. They would have to pay higher road taxes or vehicle taxes. And in the end, we would no longer be able to buy a simple analog car that we can drive, that we can still own, drive, and be full of privacy.
The question, thank you, spasiba. I think it's very important to know that I think there is a migration path. I think there will be not a big bang from today to tomorrow, and then there is 100% autonomous driving invented, and the old cars, you know, they are blown away from the roads. This won't happen. And in particular, I think and I believe that autonomous driving, or at least a certain kind of automated driving, comes up on very dedicated roads. So in Germany, we have dedicated highways now ready for doing some tests. And that's also, from my point of view, the way that I think they may be starting on highways from A to B, and you can join an automated track, and then you can release, be relieved from your driving task and hand over to the computer. When I was recently at a conference, a scientific conference in Greek, in Athens, I told to colleagues of mine, we will be never able to do autonomous driving in a city like Athens, you know, because there are very strange circumstances, you know, the roads coming from here, from there. You will never be able to map it to a computational intelligence, because what we as human beings we have some creativity. And if people ask me about robotics, AI, machine learning, and so on, and asking, are you afraid and scared about future? I say no, because we as human beings, we are equipped with the talent of creativity. And this is something I think it will help us, you know, to solve all those technical innovations. Yeah? So in your direction, I don't believe that it will be rolled out in one moment to everybody, and you will still be able to have a mixed environment, so that you can use your car, you know, driven by yourself, and some of the cars driven autonomously. Yeah, any other question? Yeah, there is another one.
Спасибо.
Thank you. You work in different parts of the world, and I have two questions. One, I will start with something very personal. It's my impression that technology, the level of technology, is far higher than the level of legislation. What I see around me in the world is telling me that. What do you think about it? Who is more advanced, technology or lawmakers?
Good question. You know, I think the technology is more advanced. Unfortunately, the law is always behind. Yeah? If you are, for example, thinking back maybe 200 years, you know, or at least 100 years, when, you know, we had horses on our roads, you know, and then suddenly we saw railways and the first combustion engines were coming and so on. I think in the first beginning, it might have been also distortion, or at least a disruption, you know, that suddenly there was a combustion engine in the middle of a track of horses and transportation, you know. Legislation is always behind from my point of view, and what I'm recognizing, and they need to be pushed by industry and by society to do something. I started in the arena of autonomous driving and other systems 10 years ago, I told you. In the beginning, I think nobody cared about autonomous driving and changing legislation. There was a so-called Vienna Convent. We were talking 10 years ago about it. But now, they are working on incremental amendments to at least local law, European law, in order to cover, the upcoming autonomous driving or at least computer-influenced driving, so that also liability, who is responsible for what, gets really certainly addressed in a certain way.
Thank you. This brings about my second question. Well, look, we have a car that drives itself. There's a pilot on board. It's not without humans, and there's an accident. And here I have a question for you as a software developer. Who is liable? The maker of a vehicle, the developer of the software, or the pilot who's being sitting there next to the steering wheel?
Good question is very good. I think in the moment the car manufacturer is trying to move the problem to the car owner. Yeah, that's, if you are owning a Tesla, you can drive on the so-called autopilot, or even on BMW's autonomous driving, or at least lane assist. They move the legislation problem to the owner. But recently, I mentioned it a couple of seconds before, I had a discussion about the European Union and their changes they are going to make. And they are thinking about a third heuristic person that will be liable for such problems. There are still many of open questions. Who pays, for example, into such a security fund? If something happens, that the third person can pay, and so on. It's a virtual person. Yeah. So I think there is really, in the moment, a lot of activities are undertaken to solve those kind of organizational legal problems. Up to now, I don't have answered in terms of a binary answer and saying yes or no, but I think in the moment you are liable, and for the near future they are trying to move towards a third legal person.
Коллеги, у нас очень интересная дискуссия.
We are having a very interesting, a very exciting discussion. If you have more questions, I suggest that you take them offline. Unfortunately, we are going to take the next presentation, so we have to bring this to an end. Just 1 second. You meant third person. Is that an insurance company or something else? Somebody else? What is that third person? Is that an insurance company? I'm not quite clear about that.
It's, we have in Europe, in Germany, you as a so-called heuristic person, as a human being, you have a second person. It's like a person in a company, a GmbH, or a restricted liability company. It's a second person, and they are thinking about a third one, which is also a virtual person, but not an insurance, not a bank, and this is the discussion, so that at least they are creating an artificial object, instance, to move the problem to it, and then to guarantee that there is a so-called validation behind it. If something happens, that there is there is an opportunity that the person can be made accountable for it. Yeah? But we can discuss later. I will be here today, tomorrow. But very good question. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you again for your attention. Spasiba большое.